Hello beautiful faces, thanks for stopping by whether you are new or returning. Now I've wanted to make this video for a while and so I am just going to make it. This is a collection of books that I think that you should read if you are new to reading. So if you're somebody that wants to get into reading, if you're somebody that wants to get back into reading, so you read for a while, then you stopped, but you'll want to get back into it. I think these are some really great, beginner friendly books. Their plots aren't too wild and crazy, and I think that you will fall in love with reading if you pick one of these up. So let's start with contemporary romance. Now, the first thing that I would highly recommend if you are interested in specifically sports romance and you love the idea of a good interconnected sort of standalone series, one book following a different couple sort of vibes, you must pick up the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. This is a 5-book series. I do own all 5, but I cannot be bothered to hold all 5. So I am just holding the first 2, but I'll plop a picture up so that you can see all 5 of them. This has also been adapted into a TV show, so when you read this you can treat yourself to the TV show. The TV show is not out yet, but when it comes out you can treat yourself to the TV show after having read this series. I absolutely love this. This is one of my all-time favorite interconnected standalone series personally. I love it. Specifically, The Deal is the first book of that series. It is my favorite. The MMC is my contemporary romance book husband personally, and I just think that this is great. This is follows a group of 4 best friends who are on the same college ice hockey team, and it is each of their love stories. And then the 5th book is like a big gigantic sort of epilogue. It follows all 4 of the couples 5 years later, so if you're interested in what happened to them after college sorts of vibes, that is what the 5th book is about. The 5th one is called The Legacy, which kind of fitting. But I absolutely love this. I think the writing is not too difficult. The plot is pretty self-explanatory. College, ice hockey, make it spicy. There's great found family with the boys. Not necessarily the girls. It's giving that the girls might become friends later in life, but also, I don't know, it's mainly the boys that have the found family. But anyways, it's just absolutely amazing. This is one of my all-time favorite series, and I definitely think that it could be one of your all-time favorite series as well. I think this is great if you are new to reading, you've not really read anything before, or you haven't read anything in a good while. I think if you're interested in sports romance, you definitely need to pick these up. And they're not that thick either, because there are some sports romances out there, or just romances in general, that are gigantic. These ones are not. These ones are just 300 and something pages, so they're really cute, quick and easy. You could very much easily pick these up if they sound up your alley. Next, I highly recommend The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I do own this physically, but it's currently on loan to a friend, so you're looking at a computer-generated image. This is just a standalone about a woman in STEM. This is also getting turned into a movie, so again, you can treat yourself to the movie after you finish reading this. This is about a girl in science. That is kind of what Ali Hazelwood is known for. She writes a lot of books about girls who are in the science industry, or they're studying in university because they want to get into the science industry. And this is it's the love story between the 2 main characters. And this is just it is great. And this one is quite low on the spice. There's only 2 singular spicy scenes, and they kind of happen back to back. So if it's not for you, you can, skip a couple of pages sorts of vibes and still enjoy the amazing story that The Love Hypothesis is. I love me a spicy book, so clearly I didn't skip that, but you easily could, and then still enjoy the books for what they are. Sorry, the book, not multiple. The book for what it is. And I just absolutely love The Love Hypothesis. I think this is a great book to get you into reading or back into reading. Ali Hazelwood's writing is quite easy to comprehend. Her books are also, again, they're not that thick. They're only 300 and something. So you could probably binge this if you felt like it. Next, I want to talk about another book that is currently on loan with a friend, but it is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This one is this is like emotional, but it's also kind of cutesy. There's also a magical realism element to it. If you know anything about Ashley Poston, she writes romances, but they all have a magical realism element to them. So The 7-Year Slip is about a girl who inherits her dead auntie's apartment, and the auntie had always said that it has magic, but then the female main character was always like, nah, like, come on, you're having a laugh. But she goes to the apartment and there is a gentleman living there, and he says he's from 7 years ago. So there's your magical realism element right there. Also deals a lot with food because the male main character is a chef. You kind of switch from like present time he's a chef, in the 7 years ago it's like his journey to becoming a chef sort of vibes, and it's their romance and it's absolutely adorable. I loved this. This is also great again for people that don't like spice, because there is no spice. You do get some like other form of, when I say no spice, it doesn't mean there's no kissing or other forms of being intimate. There is just no sex, right? So this one, spice free. So I think that you will love this if that's more your vibe. I loved it either way because I read a bit of everything. Like, I love a spicy book, but a book doesn't have to be spicy. I think that The 7-Year Slip is just absolutely perfect the way that it is. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I gave it a good, I think I gave it a 4 or a 4.5 star, I'm pretty sure. I haven't read any other Ashley Poston, and honestly it's kind of a crime because I love Ashley Poston, so I definitely recommend her. I would love to read some more from her. Again, her writing, I think I definitely felt like I had to pay some attention when reading this. Like, I feel like Ali Hazelwood's writing is probably more easy to understand, but I still think that Ashley Poston is great if you're just looking for something a little bit different. If you want that magical realism element in your romances, you know, you want something a little magical about your books. I definitely think that Ashley Poston's a great author to get into. I'm only really recommending 7-Year Slip because that's the only one of hers I've read, but I doubt that the other ones are going to be bad because I thoroughly enjoyed 7-Year Slip, so I really want to read her other works. But I highly recommend, great book to get back into reading, 7-Year Slip. Another book I recommend if you are again looking for an interconnected sports romance series, but you want every book in the series to feel different, and 5 books is way too long for you. I highly recommend Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is a part of her Maple Hills series because there's also Wildfire and Daydream that are a part of this series. I have only read Icebreaker, so I'm only really recommending Icebreaker because I'm yet to read both Wildfire and or Daydream. But I really enjoyed Icebreaker specifically. This is between a hockey player and a figure skater. So there were originally at this university 2 different ice rinks so that the hockey players could have their own ice rink and the figure skaters could have their own ice rink. One of them is trashed to the point that it cannot be used. So the figure skaters and the hockey players have to share one ice rink, and that is what brings the female main character and the male main character together. There's also the friends with benefits trope in this, but you know what, I think it also does go a little bit deeper as well. There's a part of the story that I didn't even know was going to be a part of the story before I read it, and you know what, I think I'm not even going to tell you what it is because I think that maybe kind of made me enjoy it more, because what people tell you about this is that it's like predominantly just like light, fluffy and spicy. This is definitely, oh, this is hella spicy, I loved it. But there's another element to this that not very many people mention, and it just adds depth to the book, and I really enjoyed this one, and you can read the other 2 in the series if you're interested. I think this is great for getting back into reading. Last book I want to recommend in the contemporary romance section is The Idea Review by Robin Lee. This was based off of a One Direction fan fiction, but I loved it. It is so incredibly written. This book, oh my god, this is probably one of the best written books, and also probably one of the most uniquely written books as well. Different chapters are set in different parts of the world. This follows an older lady, so it is like age gap, but the girl is older, and she takes her daughter to meet this British boy band called August Moon. Her daughter really likes this British boy band, and she catches the eye of one of the members, and so it's one of the August Moon members and herself's relationship, basically, and goes from there. I'm not giving you anything else. This one has been turned into a movie, which I highly recommend them. The movie is so good. The movie is, I love the movie just as much as I love the book. It's so, so, so good. Nicola Tzine and Anne Hathaway, like, I read this before the movie, but Anne Hathaway is our Selene. Oh my god, like, I don't picture anyone else as Selene. It has to be Anne Hathaway. And I love Anne Hathaway. I think she's great. I've loved a lot of her movies. And I love Nicola Tzine too. He's one of my recent celebrity crushes is Nicola Tzine. But the idea review is so, 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 so good. Next, let's talk about dark romance. So, first of all, if you're somebody that is just trying to get back into reading and you want to start with dark romance because you're interested in that, that is completely totally fine. However, let's definitely start with some dip your toes in sorts of recommendations that, yes, you should still read the trigger warnings for anyway. Or if you're somebody that reads other genres and you want to try and start getting into dark romance for the first time, these are also some great recommendations for you. The first recommendation I have is Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. This is a part of an interconnected series. Lights Out is the only one from that series that I have read. This book specifically is a dark romantic comedy. So yes, it's a dark romance, but it's also funny. So you could say that it's a dark romance, but it's funny, but you could say it's a rom-com, but it's also dark romance. You know what I mean? It's both genres coming together to create this book. Now, the entirety of this series isn't necessarily funny because I have heard that the second book is not funny, but this one is, this is great. It's very light. What they say, we call it like pale dark romance or dark romance light, or I like to use the term like beginner friendly. That's what I usually refer. If I think it's beginner friendly, I'm just going to say I think it's beginner friendly. This is definitely beginner friendly. I love this. This has like a stalker vibe to it. This is a girl who, she's a trauma ward nurse, and in her free time likes watching masked men on TikTok. Her ultimate favorite notices her and then starts stalking her, and things like goes from there. And I definitely recommend this as a great dark romance to start with. A lot of people recommend this as a good dark romance to start with, and I agree with every single one of those recommendations because this is a great dark romance to start with. Next, if you specifically have interest in getting into mafia romance, I highly recommend, this is the Sons of Valentino series by Kylie Kent. Let me just start with this. The Sons of Valentino series is a second generation series to a series that Kylie wrote beforehand called The Valentino Empire. I started reading Sons of Valentino before I even knew that the Valentino Empire existed. I do not believe that you need to read the Valentino Empire first, because I read Sons of Valentino and was not confused, was not worried or anything like that. So I do believe that you can just go into Sons of Valentino on its own. I do have interest in reading the Valentino Empire, but I don't believe you need to read that first. I think that you can just go into Sons of Valentino. If Sons of Valentino was like, say you didn't have interest in the Valentino Empire and you only wanted to read this. Also, I do believe that Sons of Valentino is a shorter series. Like, this book series right here is just a 4-book little quartet, and I think this is definitely beginner friendly because yes, it is a mafia romance, but it's not that dark and gritty. There's not a lot of, there's not a ton of dark grittiness. Like, it is very quite tame and palatable for anyone looking to get into a mafia book. So the first book here, this is called Relentless Devil. This follows the oldest of 4 brothers. Then the second book is called Merciless Devil, which follows the second oldest of the brothers. Then you have Soulless Devil, which is following one half of a set of twins. You've basically got the oldest, you've got the second oldest, and then you've got the youngest, because they're twins, so they're the same age. So Soulless Devil follows one of the twins, and then the fourth and final book is called Reckless Devil, and it follows the other twin. I just absolutely loved this book series. There are different tropes within like the different sorts of books. Like the first one has a little bit of a stalking element to it. The second book is like an accidental marriage. Third book is like he's quite obsessed with her and she's his tutor. The fourth book has like he falls for a pop star, so there's like a music element to it and things like that, and he saves her from like death threats that she's been getting and things like that. And I just absolutely adore this series. This is a great, I love it. I love this series, and I think that more people need to talk about it. This is quite an underrated recommendation, but I'm recommending it wholeheartedly. This is also quite medium on the spice. Like, it's lower on the spice level for a dark romance. So if you're someone that just likes a little less spice as well, these books are also, like I said, well, actually not like I said, these are smaller as well. These are only like, I think just 300, possibly the tiniest bit over 300, but yeah, so these aren't really that thick either, so I don't think that they will take you that long to get through. And I just think that if you're interested in a mafia romance, this is a great place to start. Lastly, for the dark romance category, we actually have more of a taboo romance. I don't even know if I would say that this is dark romance. I don't think that this has any dark content. I think that this is more of a taboo romance, but taboo romance I think might be under the umbrella term dark romance anyway. But this one has, I think, warnings that you probably should still check, but it's different. Like, it's like, I'm going to explain it and then you're probably going to understand what I mean. So, Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. Now, the difference between a dark romance and a taboo romance is like its content. So, taboo has, like, the relationship itself is a bit like, ooh, interesting and different. But this isn't mafia, there's no stalking, there's none of that dark stuff. So, this is just a pure taboo romance. This is ex-boyfriend's dad. So the female main character is dating this guy, but he and then they, I think, need a place to stay. So the boyfriend's dad says, well, you can come live with me. And the boyfriend turns out to be an asshole, so they break up and she gets with his dad. This was good. This is not like my favorite thing ever. I personally actually only gave this a 3-star. But you know what? I think this is great for getting into, like, should I use the word dark? I don't know. If you want a taboo sort of book, if you want to get into taboo romances, like you like taboo, you like spice, you're not a dark girly, this is a great one that I reckon that you should pick up, that anyone should pick up, really. I have seen so many people online who don't even read romance. They read Birthday Girl and they love it. Like, this is just loved all around. I thought it was good, but it wasn't anything special, which is why I only gave it a 3-star. I think, and just Penelope Douglas in general is an author that I think is not personally anything special in my opinion, but that's a different story for a different day. But Birthday Girl was pretty decent in my eyes. I reckon it's a great book to get you into reading. I think this is something that you should read at the beginning of your journey. Like, I am thankful I read this towards the beginning of my reading journey as well. Now moving on to fantasy slash romantasy slash like cozy romance with a little bit of fantasy in it. I don't have a ton of recommendations in this section because I don't read as much fantasy as I would maybe like to, but because a lot of fantasy books are like, they're gigantic, they're thick boys, so they take me a while to get through, so I don't read as many as I would like. But the first recommendation I have for you is, of course, none other than Fourth Wing. The entirety of the Imperium series, so I'm just going to hold up Fourth Wing. This is a chunky book. This entire series, every single book in this series is this length or even thicker. But Fourth Wing is great. Everyone recommends it, and I agree with those recommendations, and they're recommending it all for the right reasons. This book has helped a lot of people get back into reading. This is a very well-known book, and I loved it. I loved it. I read it for the first time last year. It wasn't the book that got me back into reading, but I understand why it would be somebody else's reason as to why they got back into reading, because this is just great. Oh my goodness. This is so good. So, the female main character has trained all of her life to be a part of the scribe quadrant. Think Divergent, because you cannot tell me that the author didn't take some things from Divergent and, you know, put in here like copy the homework but don't make it obvious sorts of vibes. But her mother thinks it's absolutely beneath their family to be in any other quadrant besides the Riders quadrant. So her mother makes her join the Riders quadrant, and that is where we meet our male main character. And it goes from there. I'm not going to tell you anything else except for the fact that there are dragon characters in it. And those dragon characters can talk. And I love the dragon characters. I love Fourth Wing. I know everyone recommends it, but they recommend it for a good reason, because it is a very, very, very good book. I've loved every single book in this series, because you've also got Iron Flame and Onyx Storm. I'll pop a photo up. I love this series. I know... I think we don't get book 4 until 2027, but I'm happily waiting because I loved this series, and I think this is great if you want to get into the fantasy genre. Now, this is good if you want to get into romantasy, because this is a fantasy, there's a romance plot to it as well, and there's spice in here, but it obviously is still a fantasy. It's just got a lot of romantic elements, so when you put them together, you do get the term romantasy. There's also, because there's a lot of different terms in fantasy, which I was going to delve into, but then I'm like, well, that's not what this video is, so no, I will not. Just know I highly recommend Fourth Wing if you want to get back into reading. An interconnected sort of cozy fantasy romantasy series I'm going to recommend to you, and I do not remember the name of the overarching series, so forgive me, but it is these two books here. The first book is called My Roommate is a Vampire. The second book is called My Vampire Plus One. So, to describe these books, these are giving contemporary romance. Just so happens that there are also vampires in this, because I would not call this fantasy set in a fantastical world, because these are set on planet Earth. The only fantasy element about them is the fact that the male main characters are vampires, and they do explain how their world works and things like that. But this is heavily different from Fourth Wing, but I love this. Specifically, My Roommate is a Vampire. This book is one of my all-time favorite books. I did thoroughly enjoy the second one, but this is just like God tier to me. This is when I read this, I was like, holy shit, this is one of my favorite books of all time. Like, I just loved, I don't know how to describe. I read this back in 2024 and just, I think about them all the time. It's so interesting because the male main character is not a book boyfriend of mine. Like, it's weird as. And it's probably the only one that does that, where it's like God tier, but like the book boyfriend is not. Like, the male main character is not a book boyfriend of mine. But this book, it's like the story. Oh my goodness. This one is still, like, this is just as good. It's just not, I don't know, for some reason it's just not God tier like the first one was. But I still thoroughly enjoy this and recommend this as well. This is great. Again, this is giving like Ashley Poston. I think if you like a regular romance, but you just want something a little bit different. You just need something a little bit different. These. Oh my god, these. I love it. I love it. The first book is like this guy who was accidentally put in a coma by his best friend. He wakes up years later and it's a lot more modern than he remembered, and he needs himself a modern roommate to teach him about the modern world. That's where our female main character comes into it. And then for this second book, it's more so this girl needs a date to someone in her family's getting married. She needs a date, and the vampire ends up being that date for her, but like he also needs her help with something as well. And it's super good. I loved both of these. Are just such amazing books. I love this cute little series, and the writing is easy to digest, so you're not going to be too confused. Again, these are, oh, I dropped the other one. These are small, only like 300 and something pages. So you want something real cute, but you like a tiny fantasy element to it, then you need to read these. I am going to go back to contemporary romance just before I do thrillers, because I want to recommend one or two romances. So first I want to recommend To Catch a Firefly by Emmy Sanders. I think this is great if you're getting back into reading. Really short. This is only 200 and something pages. It packs a punch though. Oh my goodness, this is so emotionally beautiful. One of the characters is neurodivergent and hardly ever speaks, but the other male main character speaks enough for the both of them, and it's so great. It is such a good story. This has one of those, they've loved each other for the longest time, but they didn't know that the other felt the same way. And it is such a beautiful book, and I love it so much, even though it's set in a small town. And if anyone knows me, they know that like small town's not my vibe. But I don't know. The story in this outshone my dislike for small town. So I just absolutely frothed this. This has very easily digestible writing style. The font is quite big. Because there's only like 200 and something pages. It did not take me very long. I think I finished this in like 3 days, like, because it was also so bingeable and amazing. And I'm so surprised I've not picked up anything else by Emmy Sanders, but I definitely will be reading another Emmy Sanders this year, because I loved this book. This book is so beautiful. It is so, like, it's just so beautiful. Like, I think about them and I just want to cry, because they're just, and you need to read this. I think this is great if you want to get back into reading. So good, so binge-worthingly good. The only other MM I want to recommend is Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, because I am going to have like a manga section, and I primarily read BL, which is like MM but make it Asian. So I want to recommend Red, White and Royal Blue. This is great. You read this, there is also a movie, and you can treat yourself to the movie when you finish this. I frothed it. This is so good. I loved this and think it's great if you want to get back into reading. This is the first son of the United States getting with the Prince of England. So you get political elements, royal elements. This is laugh out loud hilarious. I love the shenanigans that Alex and Henry get up to. Is so wild. Now, the movie isn't perfect. They literally take out an entire character, which pisses me off. However, I still think the movie's good. Besides, like, that aside, I still think that the movie is really good and worth the watch after reading this. And this is just so good. This is one of my all-time favorite MMs. It's so beautiful. It is so good. This is what got me into MM, because this was my first ever MM. This was the first book that I read in 2024. I begun the year with this book. I begun it with a bang, and if you want to read a banger, you need to pick this up.
I totally lie. Red, White, Royal Blue was not the first MM I ever read. It was the photo of book covers that you are looking at right now, because I read these in 2023, which is earlier than 2024. But I want to just jump in and say that I recommend these books as well. For the longest time, I thought it was just a duo, but turns out it's going to be a trio because there is a third book in this series coming out, but I'm yet to read that one yet because I don't even think it's out yet. Laugh out loud, funny, set in the UK, a bit of a rock star element to it. You know, a lot of those romances where the guy character has to clean up his act, so that's where the FMC comes in. Yeah, so that's this book, but make it MM because it has that whole cleaning up the act vibe, and it's a great story. If you want to get into MM, I highly recommend picking this up.
Now let's move on to thrillers and or romantic thrillers. So I've got 2 books that are romantic thrillers, and then I have 3 books that are just straight thrillers. Let's start with the romantic thrillers. I want to talk about Verity by Colleen Hoover, and I also want to talk about Too Late by Colleen Hoover. An unpopular opinion, I think that Too Late is better. I think that Too Late is her best work. A lot of people like to say that Verity is her best work. I think that this one is her best work, and there are quite a few Colleen Hoover books getting adapted into films, and I am, while excited for this one, I am disappointed that this is not one of the ones getting adapted because, oh my god, what I would give for this book to be adapted. I want to talk about this one first. This is my favourite. This book, I don't know if I want to straight out say that Something by Coho is like God tier to me, but I kind of want to say it about this book. This book, when I read it, felt like I was reading something written by somebody else. I'm not the biggest Coho, like I really disliked It Ends With Us, but this is so good. Oh my, this is absolutely wonderful. This is an undercover cop. He wants to infiltrate a drug ring happening inside of a college, and he meets this girl and falls in love, but she's dating the guy that runs the drug ring, and it goes from there. I loved it. Oh my goodness, this book kept me at the edge of my goddamn seat. I love this book so much. And I feel like I don't talk about this as much as I should. I think sometimes I just get a bit like, do I really want to talk about Coho? Really? But I loved it. I can't help that I love this book. I really loved this book. And, with the amount of Coho getting adapted to film, I really, really, really wish that someone would adapt this because it's so good. I loved it. I genuinely think this is her best work. And if you want to get into romantic thriller, you pick this up, please do. I also clearly want to talk about Verity. This is my next favourite, just under Too Late. This is about a woman that gets asked to continue on a book series by this really popular author who was unable to continue due to health reasons. But she has to move into that woman's house and stay with that woman's husband and kid and live in their house and things like that. And it goes from there. I really, really like this. This deserves all the hype that it gets. This one is getting turned into a movie, and it deserves all the hype that it gets. Yes, I preferred Too Late, but this still got a good solid 4 stars from me. And this is, if you want to get into reading thrillers, you like romantic elements to it because you also want to get into romance, or you're somebody that kind of wants to get into the thriller, but you still want that romantic element in there. You don't know how you would feel about a thriller without romance. This is the way to go. This was great. This is so good. If you, like I said, you want a romantic element to your thrillers, this is great. This is great to get back into reading. Coho is very easily digestible in her writing style. Personal opinion aside, because there were some that I didn't like, you know what I mean? But there are some that I do like. I think that Coho is better at writing thrillers, and she should stick to it. And this was absolutely amazing. Now, if you want to get into just a straight thriller, You cannot go wrong with the Housemaid trilogy by Frida McFadden. Yes, you need to get into Frida McFadden. Her writing is very easily digestible. She also has books for days. You know, Frida McFadden is fucking doing the most and deserves all the hype that she gets. Frida McFadden isn't even her real name because she's also a surgeon. She writes like 5 books a year, but she's also a surgeon. Like, are you kidding me? Does that woman even sleep? Oh my goodness. Anyways, she wrote The Housemaid. I've seen the movie because it literally like became a movie about a month ago. Oh, it's good. It is good. The one thing I will say is, because I said that this is like just a straight up thriller and not a romantic one, this has like like I'm talking the tiniest little bit of romance in here. The movie play into the romance. So when I watched the movie, it felt like a romantic thriller. Reading the books did not feel that way. These don't read like a romantic thriller. The movie watches like one because they make it sexier for the movie and blah blah blah. These are less sexy. For anyone who possibly wants to pick this up because they saw the movie, it is way less sexy. It's still like, it's amazing. Like, love the book. Highly recommend that you read the book. I just thought that I'd let you know about that. That was like the biggest and major difference I noticed, is that they, you know, they gave it spice and they blah blah blah. But this doesn't have any of that. Just thought I'd warn you. But The Housemaid is about a woman named Millie, and she becomes a live-in housemaid for a family. And it goes from there. I'm not going to say anything else. Now, this is a trilogy, so when you read this, you can pick up the next book in the series, which is The Housemaid's Secret. She is a live-in housemaid again, but for a different family, and different things happen. This one is just as good as the first one. It is great. I loved it. And then you have The Housemaid is Watching. This has received mixed reviews. A lot of people liked it, but also a lot of people disliked it and said that, like, you could skip this one, or like, why'd this one even come out? It's terrible. Like, some people really dislike it. I liked it. I liked it. It's not my favorite from the trilogy, but I liked it. This one's also a little thicker than the other two. This one's also slightly different because she's no longer a housemaid. But it goes from there, sort of vibes. I really like the Housemaid trilogy, and the movie set up perfectly for there to be The Housemaid's Secret movie, because at the end of The Housemaid, it ends in one of those, oh yeah, it's clear as day that they're doing a sequel and it'll be about The Housemaid's Secret sort of vibe. And yeah, this is great. Like, you cannot go wrong getting into thrillers, starting with these bad boys.
So I did film a manga section, but I seem to have lost the footage for it. So I've just got 3 mangas here that I would recommend. One is a BL series, one is a BL standalone, and one is a slice of life. So like a manga that isn't. So 2 of them are BLs and one of them is not a BL. So I'm going to go from left to right. So first is Sleeping on Paper Boats. This is really cool. This is a period piece set in the 40s/50s about a gentleman who is a screenwriter, but unfortunately everyone who he writes about dies. And so he falls into a depression, vows to never be a screenwriter again. But then he meets a boy, they fall in love, and he starts getting temptations about writing for him. And he's like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. I need to make sure that I don't do that. So he has to, grapple with that. I also highly recommend 7 Days. It's just a BL one-shot. And it's set entirely just in 1 week. So it's this gentleman who is quite well known for only dating people for a singular week. So the first person to ask him out on Monday morning, he'll say yes. He dates them for 1 whole week and then breaks up with them that Sunday and dates someone new the following Sunday. So the other male main character asks him out. It's the first time that the womanizer has dated a boy, so that's grabbing everyone's attention slightly, and it goes from there. And I really, really enjoy both of these BLs. I think they are both great within their own rights. Sleeping on Paper Boats is spicy, whereas 7 Days is not spicy. So depending on what you feel, what you are into, what grabs your attention more, I think that these are great to start with. Sleeping on Paper Boats, it's a series, but there are only 2 volumes out so far, and then 7 Days is just a one-shot. I also highly recommend Puppets That Attract. This is the one that isn't a BL. So this is a story for dog lovers. So 2 people become friends. Also, their dogs become friends because their dogs and themselves bump into each other on a walk one day, and it just goes from there. They become friends, and I highly recommend this for getting into reading as well. If you just want something fun, light-hearted and cute, breaking the stereotypes, because the boy owns the small little Pomeranian, but the girl owns the larger Rottweiler, which I think is really cool and interesting. So it adds cool dynamic that way. And so, yeah, these are the 3 mangas that I would recommend if that is what you want to get into. You like a graphic novel, you like pictures and things like that. I highly recommend these 3. I loved all 3 of these stories in their own special way. So I recommend all 3 of these if you want to get into manga. So that is it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy, leave a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you love a book just as much as I do. And yep, that's it. I will see you all next time. Bye bye.